Psst. See this? You are not allowed to go to the other side. Well, that didn't really work, did it? Hello everyone, this is my second video in a series of detail hunting and head scratching. Coming from the city center this time around, the downtown portion, we will be looking at some interesting things and discuss anything that I will find interesting enough. Okay, so we started by staring at this no entry sign on the far west side of city center. This gate holds the road to the orbital airspace center, which can even be viewed from the actual map. The entire portion is not accessible though, and can be only looked at. But let's not get ahead of ourselves and see what can we do to actually get beyond the gate. First step is to jump on a random side of the gate, hit a bob wire somehow, and die. This step is actually essential for you to realize daytime is better for exploring Night City. The clue was right in the name. Get it? Like Night City, but daytime? Jesus. Okay, so the first step is to actually go to the left side, and all you need to do is walk on this ledge. The ledge will end eventually, but you can actually jump onto a much smaller one in here. Then you jump on this bridge support, you jump on this place right here, you can jump off of it on the road, and here we are. Now I mentioned before that you can't actually get to the end of this road, so I decided to just kind of look around, and there are these apartment ships. They're not really ships, I don't think. They seem like little piers, maybe. I'm not really sure what they are supposed to actually be in lore or whatever, but it seems to me like they are literally just like tiny apartment buildings. Every window has pretty much the exact same picture inside of it. I don't really find anything useful about it. Eventually, jumping down and below the bridge, below the road we were just on, there are some shipping crates. There's a lot of them, and I don't know why. I'm not sure what this is doing in here. I have made sure that I don't miss anything, and I can tell you there is nothing hiding in here. It's just textures for no reason, because you are not really supposed to be here. Nobody will ever see this, so I don't know why is it here. Speaking of things out of place, you can climb up this little wall in the back and you find a completely normal looking stairs that don't lead to anything. You actually see this a lot in Night City. I think it's just development problems, right? Like they have basically rushed the game out, and there's a lot of places like this where it seems like there's supposed to be something in here, but there is nothing in here. Before leaving this area with this gate in it, I wanted to do one last thing that I feel like everybody who is watching these videos kind of wants from the videos, and I will show you what is beyond the bob wire area. I'm not really sure why the devs put bob wire in places like this, because there's literally nothing in here at any point. I think the only reason really is to keep the players from trying to get beyond the gate, but I just showed you that is really easy to do. So yeah, there's nothing in here, there's nothing up here of notice for anybody. So now that we are done with the gate, we are moving on and onto the streets of Night City.
Here, all yours.
I found something mildly interesting, maybe for some people. There's apparently a private investigator agency that is called Baskin Undercover Incorporated. And again, obviously, there is a Wikipedia page all about them if you are actually interested in the lore in itself. It's, like I said, just investigative private company that does anything and everything you can imagine. Very often while exploring the city like this, I just start climbing random things, and while climbing this specific thing, I found very randomly just a box with a legendary crafting item. Normally I wouldn't obviously note this in the video, but I just got genuinely surprised why is that in here at all. So in this part of the city there is a Ripper Dog, and I have also never actually really looked around in any store in his shop, and this Ripper Dog apparently is, I think, selling parts of robots to people. If that's not the case, I'm not really sure why do they have it on display. Maybe it's just a decoration. And finally, after this little visit, I have something genuinely interesting in an aspect. It's not exactly the biggest Easter egg ever, but did you ever notice in Night City that there are these garbage cans, garbage disposal places, and they don't read what you think they read? You can dispose of small cyberware, power cells, bio-waste, and chemical waste. Also a sign that doesn't allow weapons. Unfortunately, that's where this funny little detail ends, because there's nothing inside the garbage cans. So you will have to use your imagination for that. Exploring even further north, I found something genuinely interesting for the first time in this video actually. Just by the side of the shore, there's a fenced off area where there are a bunch of crates and different shipping equipment. There's also this bloodied pipe that looks like one of those things that can hold a camera or something like that. Now this is out of place because I know I've never fought anybody in here, and these are not a usual like thing you can find lying around. And soon enough I found the reason for this. A body of a woman hidden inside one of those crates. This appears to be a conversation between somebody named Lean Borowitz. In case you didn't know, CDPR consists largely of Polish developers, that's why that weird surname. Anyway, this is a conversation between Lean or Lene, I don't know, and an anonymous source. Lena is apparently writing about a serial killer and is trying to get some anonymous tips or information from someone. Now this is where, for me personally, this gets really interesting because I've never seen this before in the game. So this is completely new to me. I don't know if it's an updated, the new update came out, and I don't know if that's the part of it or if this has been in the game since the day one. I have no idea. Anyway, the anonymous source sounds like they are so close to this serial killer that I'm thinking this anonymous source is probably the serial killer, which, makes sense because Lean or Lena in here apparently, took the bait and the killer got to her, which is my interpretation. After doing some light reading on the internet, this is apparently an ongoing investigation, or more so just not exactly fleshed out side quest. Turns out you can wait a day in here and the body will have vanished, which we will not be doing today, but I think it's interesting. Inside the crate, right next to Lene, there is something that I assume is either a camera or one of those things that you record yourself with. There's also a book opened right next to it, and the only word I can really make out from this is inner peace. On top, there is obviously more text and I just couldn't read it at all. I have my settings on the highest details, so this is an intentional blurred out texture that is not exactly finished. You can also find something that looks like a microphone, or again, it could be a camera too, I suppose. If you're looking for any more useless information about Cyberpunk, these radios can holographically display the logos of different radio stations. See, I told you it was useless. This alley is right across the alley we just found the dead lady in. There's two garage doors, one of them cannot be opened and the other one you can open if you have the technical ability. The only thing that you can find in here is a laptop that is locked out with a pin. Obviously I don't know what is the password, and again, after some light reading, I found out that nobody really knows what's the numbers, and you can hack into this laptop if you have your Netrunner shard, which I have instead of that, the Sandaviston, so no hacking for me. I will make it short. All this laptop really does is disabling this camera outside. Well, now let's talk about this smoking smoke. It was on my radar since I've chosen this part of the map. If there is one thing about Cyberpunk's map, it's that there is almost equal chance to find something awesome as it is to find a pile of burning tires. At least the fire burns. Somehow that makes the shallow discovery more faithful to me. It burns so good. Alright, so from here it's pretty easy to get up to this building. There is not much to see. The texture can break the map relatively easily. Nothing new. As usual, this vantage point leads nowhere, so back down to the streets we go. Found this repair shop with some notes in it. Fluff. I like fluff. Going further north, around the edge, you can find this little scene. Behind a locked gate, two murdered thieves left behind loads of cash. In the conversation it's clear they have been betrayed, leaving the mentioned suitcase of cash on the floor. There's a small amount of cash everywhere, even signs of struggle when you look closer. We can continue exploring the northeast and encounter another scene. This one is a little bit more grim. There's a good amount of bodies, including a police officer. The conversation isn't anything new, but you can read it. After I finished leaping from 4 different rooftops, of which I didn't show you anything because there's just nothing to see at all, I've encountered another locked gate. I have to say, these are way more common than I realized. Inside we find another body. This one seems to be stabbed snake keeper with a busy yet simple schedule. Man, people get stabbed in the city a lot, don't they? Anyone knows what are these things, by the way? On my way to one of the fixers in this part of the city, I've encountered some realistic tourism. Inside the pub there is just nothing much happening, probably because it's a daytime. The local alcoholics are still recovering. And the most interesting part was this fridge screen that I have never seen before. It's nothing to put on a thumbnail, but it's not a terrible thing either. This one's kind of head scratcher for me. This appears to be some kind of sale of Netrunner chairs, if I get it right. There's this totem in the back, and I'm not really sure if this is out of place for Cyberpunk or not. Maybe I'm missing something, but it did strike me as a little bit weird. More fluff. I'm just showing this to make you feel uncomfortable. In downtown there is a nightclub called Seventh Hell, and it's part of a quest. Interesting part is that once the quest is done, you can't really use the nightclub in the same way anymore. You can't open a lot of doors inside of it, and also there is this elevator that also can't be used anymore. You can still interact with it, but it's not going to open the door and it won't really do anything, despite the fact you can hear the elevator working. There is not much to note about the nightclub itself, except that there is 2 bathrooms and each of them have urinals inside of it. Not judging anything, just an observation.
Whatever you want.
Found this pawn shop that seems a little bit interesting because it doesn't have any actual door and it seems like a vending machine. Also, it has food inside of it. I'm not sure how pawn shop works like this. And around the corner there is another pawn shop, this time with a person inside of it, but it seems like it's selling newspapers and soda. Does pawn shop mean something else in Cyberpunk? CDPR humor, by the way. Did you ever notice that the NCPD robot, it's called Minotaur by the way, has the graffitis on it? It's not really easy to show anything up close because apparently local police appreciates its personal space. Further down the road, I found this interestingly looking vehicle. I remember winning in a fight something similar. That's the same car. feels a lot less special now. Also, I found more garbage cans, this time with stuff in them, so there you go. In 2077 we will still be using gas apparently, which is a little strange, especially when I went to the parking lot right next to this pier and I realized something that I've never thought of before. These are all docking stations for the cars. A little bit like the Tesla charging stations, except this one has some kind of device in the front and in the back, which I think serves as charging coil. Really, these are things that you don't really think about until you look at them. Also found this jukebox, which seems uncharacteristically fleshed out and detailed. You can even see the prompt to interact with it, except you can't actually, which I think indicates that this is just cut content. This was intended to work at some point. Also, I found this very mysterious door that you can only force open if you have 14 points in body. And there is absolutely nothing behind the door. I love Cyberpunk. On nearly the opposite side of downtown, there is this garage door that has the interaction prompt, but there is nothing to really do. You can click on it all you want, and then eventually, you will spend money. After a while, I've realized that there is a vending machine behind the door. More specifically, it's the vending machine that can give you the disposable guns. And I figured it out because they are lying around, but I can't see them. I can pick them up, but I can't see them. Further west, there is an Easter egg referencing Die Hard. I will now put on screen some clues that will help you figure out how I got to that conclusion. Right around the corner of this Easter egg, there is something genuinely interesting to me in the game. There is a vending machine for guns. Now, I've already mentioned that before being in the game, but this is not the one I was talking about. There is a different one that actually functions. You can actually buy a gun out of it, but this one seems to be selling different versions of actual guns that are actually in the game. Plus, this one is called differently, it's just called Gun-O-Mat. The most logical conclusion for me was that this is just not in the use anymore. What's interesting to me the most, I think, is that there is the identical machine right next to this one that is not lit up and it doesn't have the screen that this one has, and also doesn't have the keypad next to the display as this one has, which sort of suggests that in some way this is either meant to work or meant to be referencing something. And that was all I could really find in this portion of the map, and the only thing that's left is to dive in quite literally and explore the one part of the map that nobody is looking forward to, the water portion. The water area in this section of the map is about 10% just by looking at it, maybe even less than that. 10% of this big of a portion is still a lot of water to process. So let's just jump into it. There is nothing in the water. I have literally 10 minutes of me swimming around like an idiot, looking at reused textures, and there is just absolutely nothing in the water. I don't know why is that. I think maybe for some reason CDPR just doesn't really care about the underwater portion of their map at all, which is fine with me because I don't like to explore the water, but it's still interesting that this seems to be the one part of the map that got literally no attention at all, despite some of the quests that are sometimes underwater specifically there is no random details in the water, and I mean, I will keep exploring it anyway because that's kind of the gist of the videos, but I'm just saying, so far I've explored a lot of the water. There's never anything in it. Also, in case you're wondering, yes, I've tried the train rail. And again, there is almost nothing to really note. I walked on this rail around this part of the city a lot, and you can't really do anything. You can jump on a lot of empty buildings and unfinished buildings. There's this one spot that is interesting, but for different reasons. So you can get in here, and there is this glass room or glass house. You can't really get inside this area normally, right? That is only out of bounds. And then there's this part that looks like you're supposed to actually come here and actually use it, but again, you can't. This is not accessible to players normally. My conclusion about this is that at some point CDPR wanted the train track and the train itself to be fully functioning. Obviously, there's even an actual train stop further down, and I think this was one of the places where this cart would normally stop. Like, this will be one of the stops. What's interesting is that in this game, this obviously doesn't normally work. You can't take the train, but the actual train itself is basically functioning. It doesn't stop anywhere as far as I know, but it's rolling around the city, and it's a nice little detail that you can sometimes notice from the ground that it's happening. So I guess, for immersion, it's pretty good. But my biggest theory about why this even is in here, because there's other places where this train could normally stop, and there's definitely like places where the stops were supposed to be there, but they are not. And I think that when they first released the official trailer for the game, all the way back whenever, I don't know, 2018, 2017, I'm not sure. The first thing they showed was, ironically, a shot from V taking this train, being inside of the train, right? And so I think that very early on in the development, they had the notion that they want a train inside the game. So this was probably one of the very first building blocks of the video game. It's just that they didn't have the time to finish it, they didn't have the time to make it functional, so the only remains actually is this one singular thing that actually works, which is it going around the game. Because of the crunch, they couldn't actually make it fully functioning thing, but yeah, I think this is one of those remains of something they planned eventually to build into, a stop for the train. You can get off it, you can buy something in here. Maybe there were supposed to be other places to go this high up in the city, but obviously that didn't happen. And so this is it. Everything I managed to dig up in this part of the map. Now, I said this in the first video, and I probably will keep saying it in all of them, but I didn't look up anything before doing this, so there is a good chance I've missed something. Plus, a lot of people are anticipating the Phantom Liberty DLC to add a lot to the map, so there is a good chance that there is going to be more new things after I upload it. Which is great. This is not exactly a Wikipedia library, I just do this because it's fun. So thanks for watching until the end. I don't ask for likes or subs, but watching the entire video helps me a lot. If you find the time, you can visit my Twitter, where I do occasionally post too. And with that, I wish you happy Mother's Day. That will be this Saturday. I'm just kidding. You should see the look on your face. See ya.